Hey, Mr. Douglas is making waves in different places and things of that nature. My video was watched by my supervisor. He's a white Caucasian. He's from Florida, and he's all about the Confederacy and all this type of stuff. So he posed a question to me, and I think he's like 61, 62 years old. So he's from the old school of all that stuff, and I ain't gonna say part of the Ku Klux Klan and nothing like that, but it may be, but I don't, I don't care. It don't matter to me. All that shit don't matter. He posed a question to me and said he watched one of my videos, was talking about the history of America, and he hit on a very interesting point. The question was asking me, he said, well, Douglas, what about when the Confederate was fighting the North, far as against Abraham Lincoln, when he was trying to form the Union and do all this type of stuff? Well, what about the people, the Caucasians that was white, that was fighting him? Was they part of the England structure and all that type of stuff? And I broke it down to him and I say, technically, the ones who was born here in America, as far as the Caucasian that was born here in America, after the Pilgrims, there were a few left, as far as, like ants, little colonies of individuals, people and farmers and stuff that had, their own land, or they did things in a way where as though they had their own separation from the government itself. So while it was two structuring vices here, it was a structurer that was bringing on the law, as far as, the townships, sheriffs, and Congress people, senators, and legislature, judiciary, all these type of things was going on all in one, not in one place, but all over America. So there were individuals who had their own property, which the people that he was talking about, as far as the Confederacy, and they formed their own little governmental common law situation going on with them. But they themselves didn't know that the law and how they formed their laws was also instructed by a system that was already pre-existing here, already in America. So yes, the Confederacy did fight against the North, which is technically the government that was trying to install the system that we have now. The difference was that those Caucasians that they call themselves Ku Klux Klan, they call themselves rebels, they call themselves Dixons and all these different names they call themselves, and they had their own property, they had slaves, they did what they wanted to do. They were the lower forms of the Caucasian race of people. See, the Englanders, they was high class sedity, suits and ties, and they didn't mingle with those types. Okay, so you have to understand, it's levels of the race within itself. It's levels, even though they were Caucasians and whites, but it was levels in the Caucasians and whites who dealt with one another. Even the senators back then was more or less like, okay, well, the trailer trash, I'm gonna say trailer trash, where the hillbilly whites or the farming whites or the whites that has a little property and all this type of stuff, and they call themselves quote unquote real Americans, as far as the republic. They were themselves not so rich, but they had a little something. They had a little property and they had a little money, and they went to the markets to buy slaves so they can try to, till those fields or grow more products and take it to the market and make more money and stuff like that, and shares and all that type of stuff. So these individuals was not trying to get incorporated far as a system, far as business and paying taxes and all that type of stuff too. So that's the reason why those Southerners did not want to follow the plan far as with Abraham Lincoln. They didn't want to follow that plan with him because they was already free in their own sense of free. They built and cultivated and did things themselves. So yes, they was part of that portion of the pilgrims that was free, and they established themselves over generations, over generations, over generations. But it was very few of them. So like when they brung in those Englanders who was running things and setting up this government, back then, it was very difficult for you to have. They didn't really have court systems. Courts was done in barrooms, or courts was done in public places, or in the park sometimes. Courts was done in all kinds of different places, even in schools that they built and all that. Courts was done. So they was still trying to establish the government as far as the policing system for people. That's when people was, they was carrying guns. They had their own stuff. They had, they had a right to do how they please, when they please on the land. And if they say, hey, self-defense, and they shoot and kill somebody, back then, they say, hey, he did something, he made a move, or whatever against me and threatened my life, and I killed him. And it was no locking them up, none of that type of stuff. So you say, but when they brung on these laws and these ordinances and all these type of things, and they did all this, they incorporated, and they say, hey, you can't just be killing our livestock, because the livestock had to pay for these for this fucking debt. So you can't be killing people just to be killing people. You can't do that no more. That's out, because those are slaves. You can't be killing our slaves. That's from England. So I try to give you the big picture and I try to give you the fruit. I'm not trying to give you a lot of mumbo jumbo gibberish. I'm just trying to get to the point. I'm trying to get to the facts, so you can understand the facts of this war. It's an intertwining war all the time. You got some Caucasians that still got property, still got stuff, and they don't want nothing to do with the government. But they've been superseded by all these quote unquote police officers and deputy sheriffs and all these type of, but the law, far as the marshals and all that, it's very few places still respect that type of law. They still around, they still in existence, but it's very hard to find a sheriff. It's very hard to find a marshal, U.S. Marshal, to really bring in justice and all this type of stuff, as far as the old commonwealth of what the law is supposed to be, the common law of the land. Because you got this government, you got this structure now, whereas though it's no more property, it's a bunch of buildings, a bunch of concrete, everything is commercial now. So it's a commercial enterprise now. Like I told you, things that the land haven't changed, the earth haven't changed, only things have progressed. And we're living in a progression of they taking the land, they taking it by acre by acre by acre by acre and putting concrete. You can't grow, you can't do anything no more. That's why you have so many people just living in the streets and all. It's nowhere to go. And if you're not under their structure and doing their things, using your ID and getting a job and doing this type of stuff and doing the slavery thing, as far as that, the new modern day slavery and all, you can't exist. You can't even survive. It's no more you hunting for your food, or you going to pick your food, or you growing your food and all that type of stuff. There's very few places you can do that. So the real ideal Republic of America is non-existent damn near anymore. It's now just the United States corporation, and you part of that debt, and you have to pay. And this is what the wars and everything was about. It's about the property, the land, and whoever controlled the land controlled the people. And people that already had their own land, they were trying to fight against these intruders and people coming over here with these courts and laws and all this type of stuff. And these Europeans was coming over here doing this stuff, and they was like, nah, I don't give a damn what you are. The Confederacy wanted to fight against that. But they themselves had an idea of what freedom's supposed to be, but they also was enslaving others also. So you have to understand, it's a circle. It's a big circle. Just because one person didn't do it, the others was doing it. And because of the poor whites and the lower class whites who dealt with the quote unquote niggers, they say let them deal with them. So they thought they was being part of a race that was superior, and all along they was trailer gutter trash themselves. And these were the Caucasians that was in America. And the people from England and British, they already knew this. They already knew this. They was Hasidic, classy people. They used these Caucasians here in America to deal with the Negroes, and then make sure you do all this laboring work to construct for them. And they control the law, the land, and everything else. And they swipe the law, the land, everything right up under all these people that was already here. That's why that war was so bloody and fight. And then the president and all that type of stuff, which ain't nothing but a lower form of a king. President Abraham Lincoln came in here, and you thought he was doing something good for the Negroes, and he wasn't doing shit for the Negroes. So I explained it to him just like that. He said, okay, that's kind of fascinating how you put it and all that type of stuff. But I was like, look, man, I'm not going to beat around the bush, man. This place was never built for blacks, period. Dark and hue people didn't have no place in this place. All this stuff that's going on there is really against you Caucasians. And you had the trailer trash Caucasian, which you are part of that, that lower form Caucasian, and you got the Hasidic, the upper class Europeans that's running businesses and running banks that's smarter than most of you people, and that those are the ones who's running things there. Those are the ones who got the billions and do all the stuff that they doing there for us, this land. So no matter what, they talk about Shaq and they talk about all these rich people and what about blacks, they making money. Look here, you get a sprinkle. Here it is, we got a whole nation of people, but you're going to have a very minute number of wealthy blacks that's in America or the United States. I'm not even calling it America no more. It's the United States. Okay? And the ones, they put these people in place to keep everybody else in line and keep them stupid. That's what the church is for. That's what this entertainment for. That's what TV's for, the news, everything else. All this stuff is to keep a mask of people ignorant and in place. I'm going to leave it at that, people. Take care.